Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Workers are still being held back because of the colour of their skin. That's according to a report commissioned by the government. It claims that workers from ethnic minorities aren't progressing at the same rate as their white counterparts. The report also says that the economy could be boosted by £24 billion if companies stamped out racial inequality. The review was led by Conservative peer Baroness McGregor-Smith, the first Asian woman to lead a FTSE 250 company. She ran the outsourcing group Mighty for nearly 10 years before stepping down as chief executive last year. The review found employment rates amongst people from BME backgrounds were 12% lower than their white counterparts. They were more likely to work in lower paid and lower skilled jobs despite being more qualified, and just 6% reached top-level management positions. The Baroness said too many bosses were uncomfortable talking about race, and she's calling for legislation to get companies to publish a breakdown of their workforce by race and by pay. I spoke to her earlier.
I was keen to do with the report was not to be hugely negative about business. Business has come a long way in many areas, was to encourage them to do more. But if they don't do more, I think we should legislate.
Do you think the government will legislate?
I hope so. If this isn't taken seriously, they should.
They've not been very keen so far, have they?
I hope that will change if they don't see the progress they hope for.
So don't you think you should go to the next level and name and shame companies?
This was never for me about naming and shaming. This is around saying, look, publish your data, set aspirational targets, start to make things better for those from different backgrounds. I think companies get it in many areas. We saw some great examples of people that were trying really hard, but I think now I'm just talking about a more consistent approach that we have done with gender. And also I think all these strands of diversity need to be brought together because nothing's been done on disability yet as well. And when you were in charge of MITI, what were you doing about ethnic diversity in your own company? I found that quite difficult because the pipeline was quite tough. We looked to put in aspirational targets. We looked to start to have the debate more. We looked at unconscious bias training. We started to look at mentoring. And is unconscious bias another word for racism? I think it is not overt racism, but in some cases the bias could be construed to be that. You have been criticised when you were running MITI by one well-known union leader, Bob Crow, for being instrumental in driving down the wages and working conditions of British workers on zero-hour contracts. Bob Crow said as much. What do you say to that accusation? He never actually said that to me personally. He's on the record for saying it. I think that's unfair. Yeah. I think in some cases employees want zero-hour contracts in certain industries. We always look to say you can have both. Many opted for them. But I think that is quite unfair criticism. But he went further. He actually said that your company, and you as the head of it, were instrumental in driving down wage levels and working conditions. Categorically not. It's not just about promoting zero-hour contracts. Categorically not. And I think if you take a look at the whole outsourcing industry and everyone that employs individuals on the minimum wage, I'm sure many would like to throw those kinds of accusations. I see a little backup in that. And looking ahead to the future, especially with Article 50 being triggered, the kind of economic environment that we are heading towards, if you listen to John Major's speech yesterday, it's sort of Singapore off Europe, is about low taxation, low wage levels, high profitability for companies. Isn't the kind of environment that you're criticising in your report, and to some extent that you've been criticised for, going to become the norm in the future? I don't think it should. One thing you certainly learn running a large group, and something that has really resonated with me over that time, is actually I think current workers' rights today should be totally protected in Brexit. I think, if anything, we need to continue to improve them. I don't think any large business... That's what Jeremy Corbyn says as well. I think improvement in working standards is important. Companies can only ever do so much, but I think all business leaders would say, OK, but let's work together on how we do that. Baroness McGregor-Smith speaking to me earlier today. I've been getting away with it all.